Good morning, everyone. One, I just want to thank you all for coming out this morning on a Saturday morning to come and hear about one of the biggest projects I think Alexandria City Public Schools is going to do in probably the next at least 2 or 3 decades. That's what I believe. So this is a big deal, and I just want to thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules. We do have some of our board members who are here today. So we have our board member, Randy Gentry, who is here. Our board member, Heather Thornton, who is here. And also our board member, Michelle Reed, who is in attendance with us. We have some of our central office staff who are here as well. If you all can just stand so they can see you. I know some of them are going to talk to you today, but in the audience, if you can all just stand just for a moment, that would be great. Yeah. Chief Academic Officer and one of our content area specialists or coordinators. So I just want to welcome you all. I am Dr. Gregory C. Hutchings, Jr., Superintendent of Alexandria City Public Schools, and I'm just really excited about this project. You know, this is near and dear to my heart because I'm a T.C. Williams graduate, right? So it's a big deal. I thought it was overcrowded when I was here. I graduated in '95. So now we're finally doing something else to address our capacity challenges in the city of Alexandria. But I do want to make a point before we get into our presentations, and the fact that whether we have capacity issues or not, as a school division, it is important for us to continuously reevaluate our educational programming and how we deliver instruction. You know, this is a very different day for our young people as they're entering, well, we're already in the 21st century, but as they're entering, you know, this new world and all these new innovative things, we have to prepare them for the new world and prepare them to invent whatever else we're going to have in our future, which means that that traditional education model that we all, for the most part, probably know, no longer really exists. It doesn't resonate with kids anymore, whether we want to believe it or not. And I have 2 kids in ACPS, and I want them to have that traditional setting, try to have them sit in a lecture all day, and then come home and do homework, and then go back to school the next day and sit in a lecture, like I did growing up. They don't, I mean, with the technology that we have, kids are so engaged that we have to continuously keep them engaged and involved in our classrooms. So I'm saying that to say that in spite of the capacity challenges that we have, we were going to have to embark on how do we provide the best educational learning environment for our young people in the city of Alexandria. So today you are going to hear some very informative information. I do want to point out the fact that just yesterday we have posted some new information that you all will have access to, because next week we have our public boards work session, which we will be discussing site investigation, our site options, as well as a cost comparison. So it's very important that if you want to have access to this, please, all this stuff will be posted on our website. It's like all this information is, but you will have access to that information. Everybody wants to know, how much does this cost? And all of that information is now available. But we will be discussing it publicly with the board on September the 19th. So with that said, I want to introduce our Executive Director of Secondary Education, Dr. Gerald Mann, who will go through our presentation as well as introduce some other team members to provide you all with some insight today. So again, welcome and thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Hutchings. And again, thank you for being here on a Saturday and joining us to hear about our high school project. And so the profile of the graduate you may have heard of, how many people have elementary students? All right, how many people have anyone in secondary, 6th through 12th grade? All right, so the profile of the graduate is something that the Virginia Department of Education rolled out last year, saying that what would look like for a student to graduate from high school. And we have this slide here to show that everything that you're about to see from the educational programming side will make sure that a student can graduate from T.C. Williams High School or any decision that the board makes, whether it's 1 high school or 2. And so the educational planning framework, I've been teasing Dr. Hutchins that this is his favorite slide from the work of the educational design team, and this captures everything that is open to a student, whether they are a student with a disability, an English language learner, they're taking an advanced placement course or a dual enrollment course. The dual enrollment, you'll hear me mention later in the program, means that you're dual enrolled at T.C. Williams and also at Northern Virginia Community College. And you'll see in the middle it says core courses. We're saying anything that is a core course includes world language, physical education, your math classes, science, English, and social studies. But you'll see that we have business and government, STEM, education and human services, and the arts. And ACPS came up with these buckets here to then cluster what the Virginia Department of Education calls career clusters. And there are 17 up there. We offer 14 of them. And this is information that all students have access to. And so through our career technology and education program or department, any student can take one class or two. They can actually get up to 16 different certifications that we offer. We're exploring more. The state offers over 490. But we wanted to make sure that parents and also our students and our staff at TC Williams understood there are options for students, but we're also exposing them to careers, because we all know at some point you will graduate from high school, you may go on to college, but you also may get a certification that then leads to your career or job. And then as we get into the high school project, the school board asked Dr. Hutchins to go back and study two options, whether we would have two high schools or we would have what we're calling a connected network. And this is a term that ACPS termed. And so we're calling it the connected network, where we would have one building or more, but students would be at one high school, TC Williams, and go back and forth to different classes there. And so part of this study, we designed an educational design team. This educational design team was made up of people from TC Williams Central Office. We had representatives from George Washington Middle School and also Hammond Middle School. And then my role on the team was just to facilitate. I didn't do any design work, but we met from June 4th through August 15th. And we spent the first 3 meetings really understanding what happens at TC Williams. And you may have heard in many of our publications, and also Dr. Hutchins, anytime you've heard him speak, we have over 400 courses at TC Williams, and we wanted to make sure that before we did any design work, that everyone understood what actually occurs and is possible for a student at TC Williams. So we spent 3 days understanding the program of studies. We examined 30,000 course requests. We have 4,000 students at TC Williams now, so you have 7 courses plus your alternates. That's how you end up with so many requests. But helping them understand that there are different pathways. We have more than just our STEM program at GW Health Sciences and Academy of Finance and International Academy, AVID. Those are programs, but what happens to that individual student if they select a course? And making sure as we design at a high level for programming, for options for the school board, that they really understood this information. And the school board also asked us to explore in this educational design team, what does alternative education look like? And most of us, when we say alternative education, have our own place where we go, and we say, are those students that have Gerald Mann and Greg Hutchins got into a fight, and that's maybe where you go. But we said, let's think about this in a broader sense. What are alternative pathways to graduation? If you went to college, how many of us went to college where we had less than 4,000 students besides me? And many of us did that on purpose. And I knew I wanted to play football, and I could go to Occidental and still do that. So I made a purposeful decision, but I also could have chosen Berkeley with almost 40,000 people. And so we figured alternative pathways to graduation helped everyone give a framework that we're not just talking about students who may have been in trouble, but what if a student is excelling academically, but they know that 4,000 students is just too much for them. And so we wanted to come up with a way to offer values to the school board to consider. And so this slide is saying, as a value, the group said, for alternative pathways to graduation, instead of calling it alternative education, that we wanted to offer flexibility to students. That should have specially trained staff. It should also have specially designed spaces. And then you'll see extracurricular activities and clubs. And I'm originally from California, so if I wanted to start an avocado club at TC Williams, I would just need to find a teacher who would be willing to sponsor that. And so if you wanted to join me in the avocado club, that's how we would have a club. And so whether we were at one high school or we had 2, that's how extracurricular clubs work. We also know that we all have heard of the movie, seen the movie, Remember the Titans. If we had a second high school, we would have 2 football teams, we would have 2 basketball teams, we would have 2 bands, 2 orchestras, and so forth and the like. We also helped the educational design team understand that if we had 2 high schools, you may not have 2 golf teams. There's no rule in VHSL that says thou shalt have a golf team. If you don't have students, you're not going to actually have a golf team. Currently, I think this past year we had 2 students, if I remember correctly, from our Director of Student Activity. So we helped the group understand, but also to the board, some values, whether we had 1 high school or 2, what are some options for alternative pathways of graduation? but then also how would extracurricular activities and clubs work if we had one or two high schools. And this sheet here, rating rubric. And so as I said, they designed, and I said to the board in all these presentations that this group, they designed, they laughed, and they danced. And we tried to make this an engaging process over the summer. And you'll see it was the rating rubric. And so this group was tasked with not recommending to the school board or to Dr. Hutchins one high school or two, but what are some high-level programming options for us to consider to make this decision? And so this rating rubric, you'll see at the top we have values, and the group spent some time individually, then they did in groups of 4, and then as a big group came to consensus on what these values would be. And you'll see at the top, the first one is equity, which matches what Dr. Hutchins has been asking us to think about and concentrate as a school division. Relationships and community, achievement, student choice, and multiple pathways. And so all of their design work, whether it was for one high school or two, each one was rated on those 4 values. You also see at the top the last 2 boxes where it says impact on student achievement and including impact on subgroups, but also access to academic programs and extracurricular activities. In a school board motion in March, the board also asked us to consider certain things as we did this design work, and we came back to them presenting the options, whether it was one high school or 2. And so you'll see that we took this directly from the board motion to make sure that this was at the forefront of the design team's work. And so the design team, they started at an individual level, again, designing 1 or 2 high schools, then they went to a group in their group of 4, then they presented out to the entire group, and they didn't rate their own design, but they rated everyone else's. And you'll see under the values, it says 4, 3, 2, 1. And so we used a weighted rubric, so if you ended up with a 4 in equity, you had a score of 16. And so what I'm going to go through in a second are the actual winning designs that were presented to the school board on August 22nd. That was the work session where the ED team members, the educational design team members, came to the school board and they presented their own work to the board. There we go. So high school model option 2A, at a high level, they aren't houses, they're actually schools. But you'll see we have here, one high school would have a STEM theme, the other one would have a humanities theme. The one important thing here is we're not saying that students, if they're in the STEM high school, have to do STEM. This is a theme for the school, just like humanities for the other school. The biggest difference here for this model is that the STEM themed high school would offer all of the AP and dual enrollment courses that ACPS currently offers in math and science and engineering and technology, which we do. And then they would offer, I'm making this number up, 4 or 5 courses in humanities and vice versa in the humanities high school. The humanities high school, currently TC offers over 30 AP courses, and we also have, I think it's over 17 dual enrollment courses. Again, these are high-level options. The board is not voting particularly on, we're going to do option A, and everything that's presented here is going to be in each high school. You see down at the bottom, alternative programs will be open to both schools. 9th through 10th grade, the core programming would be similar. We have the International Academy, which is currently at the King Street campus and also at Hammond Middle School, would be an option for both high schools. Our AVID program, which stands for Advancement via Individual Determination, will be also open to both campuses. And you'll see that they wanted to split up different languages. We offer 5. If you're not aware, we offer German, Latin, Spanish, French, and Chinese to our students. And they're saying just as to split those up, they did in another version, they wanted to figure out which ones they would be, but that would be determined by student choice. And then also you'll see that extracurricular activities are open to both students, and also you will have online learning options for both high schools. In this model, I feel it's important this group put equity at the top here, and if you can't read it in the back, it says when a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environment in which it grows, not the flower. And so both high schools will have extracurricular activities. Think of this design as a Venn diagram. What's in the middle in green would be open to both campuses. So you'll see there that you have your special education services, EL services, community and partnerships, you have AVID, also you'll see work-based learning as an option. But here, the distinction between these 2 high schools is Jefferson uses in our only IB school. This option would be exploring having a diploma program in the IB program for one high school, and the other high school being similar to what TC Williams currently has, which is offering AP and DE courses to students. and then also having a STEM focus. You'll see here some of the biggest differences in this model is that the International Academy is with the World Language and IB High School, and then in the STEM high school, obviously you have our STEM program, but also the Academy of Finance, alternative education, and here they said in this high school they felt that having some citywide special education programs would help with the transitioning program and also work-based experiences for those students. So now our connected network. For the next two slides, when you see the orange circle or line, that's how you would think of the connectedness for this model. In this model, you'll see it's developing a new STEAM center. If everyone's not aware, this school that we're in currently is a STEM school, science, technology, engineering, math. STEAM just adds arts. So this design is building the best high school STEAM center that we could dream of. But the thing to think here is every single student at TC Williams would go through this building. Again, you don't have to be in the STEAM program or the STEM program, but you can't graduate from high school without math and science. So every student would have this experience of going through this new building that we would build, but also if you're taking a technology course or engineering or arts, we wouldn't pull every art course out of TC Williams to put in this building, but this would be expanding new options for our students. And then back at TC Williams King Street campus, we would explore expanding some of our humanities options. And currently, as you'll see up here, we have our satellite campus, which is at the central office. We have around 80 students, so we'll be expanding these options to students. And we're working currently on a partnership with Early College, with our Northern Virginia Community College, where students would be dual enrolled at TC Williams, but also at Nova. Well, when they graduate from TC Williams, they're having a Alexandria High School diploma, but they're also graduating with their associate's degree. And those students aren't necessarily connected as part because they would take their courses on the Nova campus, but they would have the option of coming back and participating in sports if their schedules match. And so again, you'll see that it says GW Health Sciences up here. That isn't that those students are only housed in the new STEAM center. They would be taking their science, engineering, math classes at the STEAM center. And so this one, again, the connection is the orange thick line, and this is expanding on the King Street campus. And here, the thing to think of, if you've been in TC Williams and you're facing TC from King Street, you see Chinkapin, but if you haven't been in the back where the community garden and the big, where the students currently park, this is expanding this, and so you would then expand and build more science labs, more robotic spaces, also expand our career and technology education. But then you'll see way in the back is also keeping alternative students on campus. And so this design was thinking of proximity as a connected part. And so they actually said build a covered walkway so our students wouldn't have to be on the elements. And then you'll also see on this slide where it says could we park underground? And so it's taking the current parking structure, put that underground, and then build on top of it. And so their idea was we still like the connected option, but we'd like our students to all be on one campus. And so you also see the Early College and Satellite program right here, and then you may be wondering what happens to Minnie Howard in this option. This would be building a new sports facility at the Minnie Howard campus and making sure that we then replace that open space from, if we had Chinkapin, to put that new open space at Minnie Howard. So now I'm going to introduce our program manager, Mr. Dawood Abdul Rahman. He's going to walk you through some of our site options and how we did that work. And so, Mr. Abdul Rahman. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerald. And once again, my name is Dawood Abdul Rahman. I've been hired by the Alexandria City Public Schools to be the project director for the high school project. I come to you from 35 years of experience at the federal level, where I manage design and construction, site acquisition, community engagement, leasing projects on the federal level. So office buildings, training and conference centers, courthouses, various uses. I've come with that experience, and now I'm enjoying the experience of having to come to ACPS and try to plan, design, and construct schools. So there's similarities and differences. It's been a rewarding experience. Separate apart from the educational design activity, and this is very typical of what I would call a master planning process, ACPS and the project team also engage in a site investigation site investigation process. And that was parallel, but it was sort of not included with the academic programming. At some point in all these processes, you begin to merge the two to overlay what needs to be accomplished with the available sites. ACPS also hired a firm, Savills Real Estate. They are a brokerage tenant representation firm. They're a global real estate firm, and their specialty is tenant representation. So they are in the business of representing various tenants to find various uses of real estate to meet their programmatic needs. The short of this slide is that Savills Real Estate, which is a global firm, represents a lot of clients around the world, conducted a very extensive site investigation. They posted advertisements on various media platforms, looking for various combinations of land and or buildings of various ranges, anticipating that we have to answer this question about one high school or expand the current connected network. They called brokers, they checked databases, they talked to people they knew, they talked to other owners, things that weren't available, and the bottom line is that there was no response. There was no willing buyer, seller, partner, donator of land for this use. So any site or sites that ACPS uses for this need that's been identified by 2025, we're going to go from 4,000 to 5,000 students that need to be educated. Expansion, those expanded facilities will be on land that's already in the City of Alexandria inventory at the present time. I'll say it that way. So, and that shouldn't be surprising when everyone knows that the City of Alexandria is a land-constrained community. Land is very expensive here. Even if you drive past some sites that you might think are available, and people have done this and sent us emails about those various things, those owners likely have different ideas for that land than necessarily partnering with the City of Alexandria Public Schools for a school use. So once again, any site or sites that we ultimately use to meet the capacity expansion requirement based on the board decision will be on land at the present time that's in the City of Alexandria Public Schools inventory. So, having said that, as a part of the site investigation, we began to look at sites that were available in the City of Alexandria Public Schools or the City of Alexandria inventory. And the sites that we decided, that we started studying, everything's kind of on a high level. This is parallel with the educational process. On a high level, on site investigation, as it relates to the two high school sites, we looked at the Minnie Howard site, we looked at Hammond Middle School site, and we looked at George Washington Middle School site. For the expanding connected network, we're adding more buildings to the network that already exists. We looked at a slight expansion of the King Street campus, looked at Minnie Howard again, and land that's available and zoned and made available for educational uses at Potomac Yards. You'll notice that we have Minnie Howard in both scenarios because in your packet you have the board motion. The school was very clear that they wanted Minnie Howard used and to begin activity on that site sooner than later. So in both scenarios, Minnie Howard was included in the various levels of study that we've done at this point. As it relates to the high-level analysis at this point, there's currently 4,000 students enrolled in Alexandria City Public Schools. We expect 5,000 to be the population by 2025. One of the key ideas to understand in terms of the housing strategy is that King Street is always going to be there. It's the core hub of the high schools right now. The capacity there is 2,900, and when you go from 2,900 to 5,000, and you consider the satellite campus and Northern Virginia Community College, we need to find housing for 1,600 students, in the various scenarios. So each one of these sites, when you do an initial test fit, and we brought in Stantec Architecture and Environmental to help do the site analysis, each one of these sites with various assumptions can accommodate a 1,600 seat school. For Minnie Howard, that site could accommodate the school. For the middle school sites, the thing to keep in mind is that the middle schools would still remain there. So we could physically place a high school facility on those middle school sites there. What is impacted in all the scenarios, some more than others, is the open space and amenity uses. They're all impacted during the construction period, which is probably generally a 30-month construction period. So during construction, and it all goes back to this is a land-constrained area. When you're developing any of these sites, and you're putting new facilities there, and you have limited space and opportunities to stage and and have various logistics, something has to give. And what happens is that the open spaces become the area that you build, lay down, and start to stage new construction. So in every one of these scenarios, except Potomac Yards, so that's not built out yet, but in the sites that we really have, and there are school uses there now, the open spaces are impacted. And during the construction phase, we don't have the answer yet, but we do know that we would need to come up, based on the decision, come up with a strategy to keep those uses in operation in some combination of other locations during the construction period. And then the idea is that whatever decision is made, at least the same level of services would be replaced on that or other sites. So each one of these sites can accommodate a 1,600 seat school. Each one of these sites will be impacted during construction as it relates to open spaces. Each one of these sites has archaeology, historic preservation, transportation. They have slope issues, and one of the strategies to actually achieve additional development on these sites in all these scenarios is that there's more underground parking than initially anticipated. And these are just some of the details, not to go that deep into the next steps, but some of the details that will have to be worked out in much more detail once we get to the high-level decision on September 26th. I'll just remind you, and September 19th, as Dr. Hutchins mentioned, there will be a strained work session with the board where we're talking about sites and costs. So at least there we'll begin to have a more level discussion, even though we're still at the planning stage. And then when we get to a decision, you begin to get to more detailed programming and begin to think about how you might bring in architects and contractors to start executing the program based on the decision. So the next steps, the big next steps that you continue to hear us talk about is the September 26th board decision. We get to a high-level decision on is it one high school or another high school, or expand the current network. We're continuing this community engagement with parents, the community, everyone who's interested. Everything that we're doing is posted online. In your package, there are comment cards, there's an email address. We really want to get your feedback about questions, comments, criticisms, anything that seems unclear in the report. We'd like to make sure we capture all that so that we're incorporating all this feedback for a final report, but also to make sure that the superintendent and the school board have the best available information to make the decision. We started doing some, and you kind of heard a little bit, some preliminary, how would it work if we actually took one of these models and applied it to some of these sites, and we'll talk about that a little bit with the board next week. I mentioned that each one of the sites has various environmental, archaeological, and transportation type issues. We will start thinking about bringing on architects, plural, depending on how we move forward, and we'll continue to refine our cost estimates. As Dr. Hutchins mentioned, we've uploaded some of the preliminary analysis that we think would influence the cost. There's currently right now $103 million set aside in the capital improvement program for construction. We've been saying, the team's been saying for a while that we thought that budget needed to increase. We're here to confirm that that budget needs to increase. The order of magnitude will kind of refine, but some of our preliminary thinking about that based on various alternatives and our kind of assumptions about various site, particular aspects of various sites is reflected in our initial thinking. So those are our next steps. We're moving forward with these sites. We're bringing these various processes together. We're updating and having various work sessions with the board. We're getting feedback from the community, incorporating all that, and what we're trying to have is a comprehensive analysis so the board has as fully flushed out as possible the various options before them, so an informed decision can be made. So this is the presentation. Once again, we encourage you, thank you again for coming out on your Saturday morning. We encourage you to give feedback, visit the website, use the email address, and we really are interested in all your comments, feedback, suggestions for improvement as we continue the process. This is a continuous dialogue, and as what we've said over and over again, we're kind of at the high level getting to one decision point, and then we'll be moving forward to various levels of decision as we go along. So the community engagement will continue throughout the process. And I've been reminded by board member Reef that in the package is a comment card. So not just the email address, but today, if you have a comment, get it down on the comment card and we'll collect those as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I just want to thank Dawood as well as Dr. Mann for their presentation. I do want to open the floor for some questions because I know that you all may have questions as we go along today. We are going to begin the open house component where you can actually have more intimate conversations around these different items that were presented to you today, and we have the experts here to talk with you. But we wanted to give about 15 minutes to open the floor for open discussion and any questions that you all may have. And we're going to bring in, I think, the other mics so we can capture your voice because we are recording this, this segment. So we're going to get the mics, and I just saw these two hands go up first. So Katie and Tara. So Katie, I saw Katie's hand first.
I love it. Okay. My only question so far is, it looks like more in the students' educational component of both plans is, it sounds like by around 8th grade, they need to decide what they want to, kind of their focus of study for high school. If in the middle of their high school career, they are finding that they've gone to STEM and they're like, you know what, this isn't really right for me, I kind of want to go towards the IB. How would it be easy, feasible for them to switch studies, even if it's 2 different buildings or 2 different programs? Would they be able to, I'm assuming they would be able to switch?
Yes, so first off, that student would be me, right?
Right, me, right.
So I know that was me in
Yeah.
college too.
Yeah.
So what I would tell you is that a part of the board's directive was that whatever our educational programming was, it needed to be fluid. Meaning that students could go in and out, that you don't have to declare like a major, right? And that's the only pathway that you have. So one of the non-negotiables was that we would have multiple pathways for our students in either option. I said this at our last session, that we don't want to get too caught up in the educational programming piece because right now, the way it looks, because we wanted to provide the board with a conceptual kind of understanding of what programming can look like if we chose 1 or 2 schools. And that was really the premise for us providing that. There's still more work that's going to have to be done in regards to the educational programming after the September 26th vote on whether we're going to have 1 high school or 2 high schools. And but some of the non-negotiables in regards to the educational programming is that it will be fluid, that we will still serve students who have special needs, that we will still serve students who have EL or who need EL services, that equity will be, we would do everything through the lens of equity, and that students will have these alternative pathways in order to switch what they may want to do, regardless of what option that we have. So I want to make it very clear to everybody today, this is more of a conceptual kind of understanding of what 1 high school or 2 high schools could look like in regards to the educational program. Tara.
Hi, I'm both a parent and a teacher at TC.
Yes.
So, I have a lot of concerns about the 2 high school, some of what Katie brought up, in terms of kind of students being pigeonholed. I know as a parent, putting on my parent hat, my daughter loves STEM, she also loves the arts, and I don't know what she'd do here. I think it would be hard for her to deal with this. So I'm really leaning toward the interconnected, I especially like option B. I also think it's really important the whole history our school has, which I know you, as a student there, that it's an identity that's unique to us, the movie and everything else, and I just think that, if we make one TC and the other something else, that's a little bit lost, and I think that's a special part of our history of our city. And I just think if you do want to have that fluidity with students being able to move between things, that the interconnected will make that much easier than the 2 high schools. So just some things I wanted to throw out.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Crystal, I'm sorry I didn't put on the name. So I'm the parent of a 6th grader, and not new to the city of Alexandria, but new to this concept of the Titan Pride, right? And I come from a community where, sure, I'm proud to be a Wildcat. That was my high school. We graduated, it was great. But I feel personally like a lot of this Titan Pride is driving decisions around whether it's a two-school or the connected school. And I'm not personally swayed, I don't think, either way. My question, though, is more around logistics. And what does the concept of a student's schedule look like with regard to the connected school network? I mean, obviously, if you're in two separate high schools, your student will be traveling from day to day within one building, right? Logistics for the student would be potentially a little easier. But what does the schedule look like with regard to option A or option B with regard to this connected high school network? And if my son is taking some STEM classes, but is also at the King Street campus, or maybe he's being moved over to, do you know what I'm saying? I mean, you've got multiple buildings doing multiple things. How do the kids navigate that? Is it all of his STEAM classes are on Tuesday? Or is it, you know, he's a half day over at King Street and he's got 25 minutes to get over to STEM or to STEAM? You know, I'm just trying to navigate that component around this concept.
So it's a good question. So first, let me just say that in regards to the schedules, it is difficult to give an example today of what everybody's schedule will look like. The schedules are driven by student requests.
Sure.
So we would have to assume that everybody's going to sign up for this course, or that course to give you an example today. But what we can share with you in regards to what it could potentially look like is how we operate our Mini Howard students now. So Mini Howard students are freshmen, and some of our freshmen, I'm going to use my daughter as an example. I won't say her name because she's going to get upset. So she has classes at Mini Howard, and she also has classes at King Street because she's taking an AP course, Latin 3, and also public speaking. So that requires her to go over to the King Street campus.
Every
So,
day.
Every other day.
Every
So
other
the way it's scheduled right now is on A days, Micah, just said her name.
Nobody
She
heard
goes,
those.
I'm like, just love her name so much. But she would go from, on A days, from the Mini Howard campus in the morning, she's there, and then in the afternoon, she's at the King Street campus taking her afternoon classes. But she only attends the King Street campus for half a day, every other day.
And there's a bus.
And there is a bus, yeah. So the bus, and everybody actually who's going over to the King Street campus is taking that bus. The bus comes at like 11 something. I forgot the exact time.
11:40.
Thank you. 11:40. But 11:40, and takes her over. She has lunch at the King Street campus, and she's also dismissed from the King Street campus to come home. So that's just an example of how we operate today, and I think for our community, it is important for everyone to know that we currently have what we call a connected high school network already in function, because we have a Mini Howard campus for freshmen, we have a satellite campus for students who want a smaller learning community that's housed at central office, which is over on Braddock Place. And then we also have what we call a Chance for Change, which is a location where students who need more of an alternative educational program or pathway, and that's in Old Town. So those students are taking classes right now on multiple campuses, even though they are all TC Williams High School students.
Hi, thank you. My name is Karen. Thanks for having us here, class of 2017, 2020, 2024, and then we're done. We're so done. The connected concept is innovative, and it will require some bit of culture change. Can you speak to, without committing yourself to details, what type of impact that has on your staffing, administrative, support staff, how that impacts your strategies for retention of talent? Is that in your $103 million budget, the way that you're gonna have to train up a new cadre of interconnected teachers, advocates, support staff, and administrators?
So the $103 million budget was the old budget. I want to make that point clear. So the new budget, you all can go and see online when we discuss it next week. But in regards to like our staff and having a cultural shift is what you're talking about. I think that some of that right now is on a very small scale with some teachers who may teach at Minnie Howard and the King Street campus, but that's on a small scale. We have a lot of teachers who do that. So there will be a shift in kind of how we envision, how we deliver instruction to our students, how teachers might have to move, just like kids might have to move. But this really is a part of how America's operating, really the world is operating today. You think of just recently, we were having discussions, or a policy which was passed by the board about a year ago about teleworking, right? That wasn't a concept that we had really discussed or anybody talked about in education. And we do have some positions in Alexandria City Public Schools that don't have to have FaceTime with people or students, and they actually could work from home. And we can still get our tasks done and our jobs operated and done. But I'm saying that I'm using that as an example to show that I really think that this concept, yes, it's innovative, but it is also the way that the world is going in regards to flexibility. We have to think of flexible space. We have to think of having flexibility in our jobs, how we deliver instruction. All of those things are going to have to be put into consideration regardless of what option we choose. I think we need to keep in mind as well that whether it's the Connected High School Network or 2 high schools, teachers are going to be moved. So if we have 2 high schools, we're not going to say all the teachers that we currently have get to stay where they are, right? We're going to have to move people to one of the high schools and some people to the other, and then hire some new folks to come and work in Alexandria City Public Schools. So I think either option is going to bring some of those challenges. And the more transparent we are about that, and the more professional capacity that we're providing to our teachers, the better off our students are going to be with their learning experience in the school. So yes, it is definitely something we put into consideration and we will have to work through. Oh, sorry.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. It's been very informative. I had one comment, as I was a former IB diploma teacher and an AP student myself, and for me, for the 2 school options, the IB AP split makes a lot more sense to me than the STEM humanities, because both AP and IB require integration of science, technology, math, arts. So you're not like pigeonholing students as you're a science kid or you're an art kid. And so for me, there's clear reasons why a student might choose AP or IB over the other, and then for me that makes a lot more sense than kind of pigeonholing kids if you're this type of kid. My question though was more towards the site selections, and I was curious, as I assume the schools that we already own, this question's kind of answered for, but for specifically the Chickapin expansion and the Potomac Yard site, are there any other restrictions, like who owns the land or Superfund or federal restrictions or anything like that that might be impacting that decision already?
So absolutely, there are some restrictions for the Chickapin campus, and those are things, not that it's impossible for us to ever build on that space, but because it has been designated as a public space, and a school is not technically a public space, Chickapin is open to the entire public. Those are some hurdles that we would have to overcome in order to be able to do or implement that concept, which means it's not that it's possible, you know, like anything is possible, but is it reasonable? In regards to the Potomac Yard space, we're going to be talking a little more specifically about this with the board on September 19th. We already had a designated lot at Potomac Yard that was designated for school space. We have been able to collaborate with Virginia Tech as well as with the city to now identify another space that's actually a little larger than the original space that was given to us for that particular project. So in regards to the Potomac Yard area, the space is actually going to be a little larger for us. I think some of the restrictions is that that area is, what I think is not really restrictions, it's also benefits that now it will be closer to Virginia Tech, be closer to housing, because there are going to be affordable housing options that we're having discussions about. We're having discussions about workplace housing for ACPS employees as well in that area. So those are restrictions, but also benefits to us.
Are we far enough along in the process where we've considered the staffing issues associated with putting a high school and a middle school like right next to each other?
Yes, so what we're gonna be sharing with the board, and you actually can see some of those documents, because they're now posted publicly, they were just posted yesterday. The meeting is on Thursday, where we're sharing with the board, some of the assumptions in regards to our transportation review and what impact that has in a neighborhood, in a community, for a school, having 2 schools on 1 campus, all of those factors. And we provided a rating in regards to that, of showing like good, very good, not so good, that type of thing. So that the board as well as the community can see what the impact this can have, whichever option that we choose. I know we're gonna get one more question, because we're supposed to stop at 9:55, and I know Julian, she had a question, and you all probably couldn't see it because she was up here. But that doesn't mean all of your questions can't get answered, because we're gonna have our experts here working with you all until 11. I just have to go to a soccer game. Because this was playing, my soccer game, this was playing before the soccer game, before Gregory made the team.
So my initial question, I was going to ask about the Chinkopin site and the feasibility, getting city council on board with that kind of interaction. But since someone already kind of addressed that, the other question that I had is, since we know that, let's say we approach a 2 high school model, 1 high school would be close to 3,000 students, 1 would have to be around 1,600 from those projections. Because we have these kind of narrowed down to specific programmatic options, has there been any analysis of how many students might be interested in either one, and whether or not each of those schools then has the capacity? What I'd be concerned about with my kids is, let's say they want to do STEM, but the STEM is the mini Howard campus or the smaller 1,600 student campus, and there's not enough room per se. And then they're not pigeonholed by choice per se, but they're pigeonholed by where we have that capacity constraint. So I'd just be interested if you've contemplated that.
So we've had discussions about the choice piece of, so if the board decides to have two high schools, right, there is another layer of work that will have to be done. We would have to determine, how do we redistrict to make sure kids are assigned to certain schools? Or are we gonna do a lottery? Or are we gonna do a choice? Or there's a number of factors how we're gonna have to determine who gets to go to which school. We also, when the education design team was working on this conceptual kind of framework of our educational programming, even though there are themes for each of the schools still offer those other courses. So for example, a humanities theme doesn't mean the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics courses are not offered in that building, because they are. And if there's interest in that school, then that is what drives the courses. So kids, depending on which school they're at, really drives what courses we offer in all of our buildings. And that's the concept that we have now. So I use Hammond and GW because that's really the only kind of example we have in the city of Alexandria of 2 middle schools, because we don't have 2 high schools, but 2 middle schools where the students at Hammond and the students at GW kind of drive what courses that we offer. Now, right now, they look identical, but there may be a group of kids that come in and say, we now want Italian, right? And we have a whole class worth of kids who want to do Italian, then we begin to offer Italian, at GW or at the Francis C. Hammond campus. So student requests really drive those programs, and what we have done is made sure that even though it has a theme in this concept, that those other courses are also offered at that campus. So with that, we're going to still open up the floor for questions, but the questions will be with individual experts at these different sites. I do want to thank you all, one, for joining us on your Saturday, early in the morning. And I also want to thank our team for being up here to present to you all. And we're looking forward to this huge endeavor. This is a lot of work. The September 26th is really just the beginning. Not saying this is now the path we're going. There's still a lot more work that has to be done over the next 3 years for whatever decision we make before kids are walking into some type of structure. So I want to thank you again and enjoy the rest of your day.